And today I want to talk to you about how to do home education of your children. I did it up until 2010. I worked with a boy who was from age 4 to 9 and a girl from age 5 to 11 is when I did their home education. They went on to school after that and they were 2 years ahead. So I must have been doing something right. But really, I mean, you may feel intimidated by the process, but it is quite simple. And when you look at the child spends all day in a school, they're not actually doing work all day long. A lot of breaks, a lot of assembly, things like that. So there's not things falling down. So there's not really a lot of work that they're doing. So when you come to working at home, you won't have to spend hours and hours. Right, the first thing, I wanted them to fit into mainstream, so the first thing that I did was to teach them to read, write and maths. They're the main things that they need to do. So when it comes to reading, I taught them the alphabet, and then I taught them the phonetic sounds of the alphabetical letters so that they could learn to read for themselves. So that's your first stages, is teaching them the alphabet, teaching them the sounds that each letter makes. A for A, B, B, C, K, so forth. When it comes to writing the alphabet, I use dots, so I would put dots in the shape of each letter and on a page, across the page, and then they would go over the dots with a pen until they mastered how to do the letter. I'd show them direction that they needed to go in. Once they'd mastered doing the letters with the dots, then they would go on to writing the letters themselves, and then they were able to write. I feel that that's really important in life, is for them to practice their writing each day, because then they would have a good handwriting when they get older, and that's what they need. They need legible handwriting. So each day they would do the letters. Once they'd mastered the letters, then they would start to copy things out, I mean, my boy liked cooking, so he'd copy out recipes, copy songs out, and then, yes, write their own stories, write their own poems, write their own songs. When it came to the reading, it was learning the sounds and then able to recognise the words, recognise the letters as we were out shopping and so forth, and then starting on very easy reading books like Janet and John, sort of, you know, the cat sat on the mat, and then gradually moving on to better books. I would take them to the library about once a week, and they would choose the 13 books that they wanted, and then they would read some of that to me to begin with, and then as they got more accomplished at reading, they would just read to themselves at bedtime. So the reading, that's how I developed that, that's how you can develop that. The writing that's how you develop that with the dots, and then going on to write things, and then I'd get them to write things each day. It's the same with the maths, in that I use dots to show them how to write out numbers, and then teaching them, you know, the numbers, count to 100. And then I used maths books that you can get very cheap, like a couple of £2 in post offices and places like that, bookshops, which are like, they go through stages of like levels of maths. So you start with the easy ones, and I basically would let them do 1 page a day. So it would be, you open the pages, and then they would do either side of the page the maths. So it might be count how many carrots are on the page and so forth, and I would initially go with them reading the words of what the maths was requiring, and then after they mastered reading, then they were able to read the maths for themselves, see what they've got to do. Anything that they didn't understand, then I would be able to explain to them. I mean, if you at a level where you don't understand, then you can always look elsewhere to find an understanding of how to do the maths. But basically, to begin with, it is very simple. So they would be given the maths to do a day, a page, and English, which was to write out something, anything that they wanted really. I'd encourage them like to write stories, be inventive, but if they didn't want to, it was just about practicing that handwriting and just doing the maths, and that took care of itself. Now my position is in life is the more wider your experience of life, of the world, of how big the world is, if you can go to different areas, different countries even, then you end up with a wider outlook on how the world works. So I personally would drive each day. We would go to the countryside, we would go to the seaside, the river, so forth. And on that journey is when they would be encouraged to do their maths, do their English, and then by the time we reached, they've done their work, and then they could just explore that area of wherever we've gone. Now, in addition to reading, writing and arithmetic, it's good to have other things, obviously. So I included arts and crafts, which children like to do, but different children have got different ways. So like the boy, he liked to draw, he was very good at drawing. The girl wasn't the best at drawing, but she liked doing detailed things, so she would do things with these little bits where you ironed them and all that. It's about exploring, different ways of being creative. So you can get the arts and crafts cheaply from pound shops. Also, if you could teach them to sew, if you're able to, and knit. So it's about evolving things, get some clay, make fun with the arts and crafts. I mean, I'm a very arty person, but some people are not. Some people don't really want to, but it's about putting the foundation there so that the person can learn. And with art, it's about knowing it doesn't matter whether you can really draw what you want it to look like, because no one knows what it was meant to look like. So it's about exploring that within the child, exploring how to create. So in addition to that, their mother was a singer, so but it doesn't really matter. It's about, we would do music. She would do a sing along with them, CDs, play the CDs, they learn the words to the CDs, write out words to songs, sing along, write their own songs, sing along. What I did learn with them is that when they would do their singing, they would actually feel they were much better than they really were sounding. And so I give them a sense of self, where I used to video them while they were singing, and then they would see that they weren't as good as they thought they were, and then they'd go away and practice and come back and perform much better the second time, and the video it again. And then when education came, they was able to show the videos of them performing or reciting their poems or whatever. And it's to build a sense of self and a sense of confidence. Also, if you can introduce instruments, I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you're good or bad. I mean, you can make instruments, and you can also have instruments, but it's about exploring them avenues to have the child know them things in their life, but they may not need to do them every day if that's not what they're interested in. It's about finding who they are. Puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, you can pick them up cheap. Now when it comes to the topics they would be learning in school, history, geography and that so forth, I would choose topics initially and teach them it the best I could. I'd get information from library books or whatever, and then regurgitate it, showing them explaining how it all works. But eventually, by them learning who they are, they would choose the topics that they wanted to learn. Like my girl, she was very interested in history, so she would choose them books in the library. So it is evolving who they are. In addition to that, the TV has educational programs often, and so they can learn from them. I also sometimes would give them to watch Sky News, and it repeats itself every 15 minutes or so, and so they could watch the news, and I would say, write down what you think's going on in the world, and to get them to try and comprehend. And then I'd be doing the washing up or something, and then when I come back I'd be, right, what is going on? And then they would put forward what they thought they were saying was going on, and then we'd explore it just to understand the world, not really to be really into the news, but to learn comprehension and to regurgitate what they comprehend, really. A lot is discussing, which you can do, as you're driving, you can do as you're doing your work. In addition to that is like I'd include them in the cooking, or So when I was cooking, then they would be involved in whatever they could take part in, so that they would learn how to cook. Because these are life skills. Also, I did gardening a lot, and I like planting vegetables and plants, so I included them in that, in growing vegetables and plants, so they learn how the world worked there. I mean, you may not have a garden, but you can grow things indoors in a window box or a saucer, just to see how things evolve. Now, in addition, is to do some sort of exercise. Different children, some children don't like sports, some do, but it's like when you're going out, you can go out for walks, go to the playground, go to the park. They may take interest in some sports. Encourage any sports that they take interest in. If you can swim, teach them to swim, ride bikes, dancing. Again, I would video it, and then they would see, and then they could improve it. And then we had a punch bag in the back garden and a swing ball, and so it is about, they can't study forever, 45 minutes is sort of the normal concentration span for everyone. So it's about learning your child's concentration span. Don't push them beyond it. You have their concentration span to do what they're doing. My boy would have been considered ADHD because he would jump around everywhere. It was like he couldn't sit still, but it didn't matter. I'd let him write his stories, do his maths, jumping about at the table. It didn't matter. It didn't need to be stifled to be sat down in a chair. So it's about learning what they like, learning who they are, and teaching them to think outside the box. I mean, I would teach them this is what you might learn in school, the history say, and then I would, if I had different opinions, which I often do, on things, then I would share my opinions, encourage them to have their opinions, to show them that things aren't really rigid, and that it's all a matter of opinion, really. In addition to that, yes, computers. I didn't include computers really, because what I found was if I let them play on a computer, after that everything else was boring, because the computer stimulates so much adrenaline, computer games, so forth, that then drawing and doing arts and crafts is boring. And it would take forever for them, it would take like a week for them to want to do art again. So I would only really let them do computer games for like half an hour as a reward at the end of the week, say. But I was quite strict like that. Nowadays I'm aware that everything's gone computerized, so they sort of do need to be familiarized with computers, but the way I'm showing you is how to do it without computers. But if you want to use computers, then all the information's there as well. I mean, on YouTube they can access a lot of information on education and other sites. So that's really, I think I've covered everything in that. Education will come, as I said, about every 6 months I think they came. But you've just got to show them examples of the work, and that they're improving. So, as I say, mine were 2 years ahead by the time they got to school. So I hope that this video has helped you feel that you could do home education if that's what you feel you want to do, but you've maybe felt like lacking in confidence that you could do that. I, in addition, did this as I took the children. They were it was a battle with child protection, and quite a few people are under battles with child protection now, and sometimes their child protection is not working how they're meant to be working, which I do cover videos on YouTube on how to protect your children from child protection. Not every one of you is concerned with such issues, but I just want to put it there in case you're choosing to home educate your children because of child protection issues. I just want to, I'll add them videos to the thing, and also I'll add that I did put together a book, just to say, a few years back, called Sex and Drugs and Rabbit Holes. It's on lulu.com. I can put a link to it at the bottom, and that is many blogs I wrote regarding child protection and things that are not right about our system. So yes, I just wanted to put that there at the end, but I don't. It's not for all of you. Anyway, I wish you all well in your endeavours to home educate your children, if that's what you choose to do, or if that's what you feel you have to do. I mean, with this coronavirus, you might end up having to do it because they, if your child gets the virus or so forth, or the school gets contaminated, who knows? We don't really know how this is all going to unfold. So it's good for you to know how you could home educate your children, and they will develop with a normal level of education or more. Okay then, have a good day everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.